Hello and welcome back to another Tactics episode with my good friend Darnish here. It's good to have you back after the break and a lot of time away and quite a few things to look at.
It's good to be back. Yeah, there's actually we got a lot of interesting tidbits to get through in December. A lot more interesting than what I thought. But yes, we shall get stuck into it. Hope your Christmas and New Year's
Yeah,
was good.
yeah, yours as well. And we're trying this, to show a little bit more pictures because you put up some great threads that have good pictures, and that way it's easier than just us talking. We can probably get through it a lot quicker as well than trying to just describe and remember everything.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's exactly right.
so yeah, so let's get into it. Starting with Liverpool, here I think was the first game we wanted to cover, and yeah. Start with this. You can get into what you want to start with here, and I'll click into this picture, and we can go to it.
Yeah, if you want to just so I think one thing that keeps happening, it like United are a team right now where we keep seeing the same things happening. We keep seeing the same patterns.
Yep.
So, as an example, just before we got Newcastle absolutely bludgeoned us. There's no other way to describe it. I think Newcastle was one of the most biggest beatdowns that we got this season, which is quite
Yep.
damning when you consider how many games United have lost. Then what United did after was go ahead and produce a very good performance against Chelsea because they followed instructions to what Ten Hag wanted. So that performance against Chelsea clearly uh, said to me, okay, they're still capable of following instructions and setting up in a way that's going to hurt opposition. Then, directly, I think, did we have a cup game after Chelsea? I feel like there was one more bad game after Chelsea that we're missing.
Yeah, we lost. Not a
Bournemouth.
cup.
That was it.
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
Yeah, we just
We lost
very
lost to
bad.
Bournemouth. Yes, very bad. We'll also get to that because there was Nottingham and West Ham were very similar to Bournemouth. But after Bournemouth, again, a big game. Everybody's saying there was jokes about how many goals Liverpool would score. In the end, it was 0-0. Now, Liverpool, let's caveat this by saying Liverpool were horrifically bad this game. Horrifically bad. Like
Yeah.
off kilter. Everybody was off kilter. Salah was bad. Szoboszlai was bad. It wasn't in terms of like a bad, it was bad in terms of how they set them up, but also bad in terms of misplaced passes, poor movement, bad touches from Liverpool. But the way Manchester United set up in that game worked, and it was man-to-man marking again. It just surprised me that the man-to-man marking worked when almost every team this season has exploited man-to-man marking. If you want to just go to like the next few pictures, then we can get
Yep.
through it. So the man-to-man marking system quelled Liverpool's midfield because basically Mino and, as you can see there, Amrabat largely stuck to your midfield pivots of Gravenberg and Szoboszlai. Now, when you do this, and your deepest midfielder is Endo, then what you can do is cover your deepest midfielder using either Hoyland or McTominay. Or in this case, McTominay is cutting off the option of the ball to Alexander Arnold. So wherever Gravenberg and Szoboszlai were going, Amrabat and Mino were tracking them. So if you want to just go to like the next few slides now, and then
Yeah.
we'll get more. We'll explain this a little bit more. So where Endo is now, you can see Hoyland is covering him. That only leaves two more Liverpool central midfielders. So it only leaves two more midfielders for the defense to pass to get the ball from defense to attack. But if you cover them well enough, it limits the opposition. Like you cut off the central way of getting the ball from A to B, and you would
Yep.
rather. And even when Liverpool have the ball deeper in United's half, if you keep
Yep.
covering off the options in the middle, which is what United did very, very well last season, then you will stop the ball getting from A to B. So I was very surprised that Liverpool didn't take more advantage of this. Now,
Right.
if you go more to if you click two more images, and you go to the one where Sobsala is dropping. If you want to just go back a little bit, that's it.
Yep.
I'm sorry, just go back a bit. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, there. So there was times, and I'm surprised Subsalai didn't do this more. There was times Subsalai was dropping deeper to sort of progress the ball. If he does this, if Sobzalai is 5 yards deeper, like close to where Konate is now, where he has the ball, Amrabat will follow him, and that creates space in the middle of the pitch. Then what Liverpool could do is drop in a forward even more. So Salah could drop deeper 5 yards, pick the ball, turn, run. And then you could do that
Right.
again with another striker. You can maybe drop Diaz in. But what you do is Amrabat is then taken away. Sobzalai has created some central space for him. Salah has got the ball and turned. What that in turn will do is set off a chain reaction of a United defender having to come out and marking Salah. So then you've got spaces here, and then you've got spaces centrally as well. But they didn't do that enough, quite frankly.
Right. And I think maybe just in looking at these pictures, obviously one of the biggest things that stands out is it was more of the 4-2-3-1 type of setup. Kabi Manu and Amrabat are about on the same level at almost at all times, defending deeper, whereas Scott McTominay is playing in the kind of more advanced Bruno role. Whereas obviously one of the biggest complaints that we've been seeing is when it's been like Kabi Manu, McTominay, and Bruno, McTominay is way up the pitch.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think you're saying there's the weakness of the man marking system either way that can still be played with. But probably a bit why it worked better is there was 2 deep man markers instead of 1 deep man marker. And so there's a little bit less space. You have to do a little bit more to work through it. But as soon as you go away from that system back to kind of 4-3-3 with 2 advanced midfielders,
Yeah.
if you could imagine, I could imagine Amrabat being way up the pitch, like McTominay often is in this image, and then Szoboszlai is wide open, which is what would often happen, and creating a chance and transition there. So that's probably part of it, right? The change in
Yes, I
system
think
with Bruno
so.
out, allowing for 2 deep midfielders. I mean, again, here we can see, look how many deep compared to before.
Yeah. The other thing as well is what if you have Bruno and McTominay as your midfielders, you're probably going to have 2 people who want to be advanced up the pitch, and you're going to have your best asset, to me, your best creative asset, covering space this way. And
Yeah.
McTominay has clearly been told, okay, you just go advance and don't worry about the space that's behind you. What we can see in these images, though, is if you have Amrabat and Maino, you can mark off the central midfield options. Even then, look, Liverpool in this current image, they have Luis Diaz dropping, but Amrabat's just behind him.
Yeah.
McTominay here, as you can see, is closing down the Liverpool defenders. So it's okay if in this sense, it's kind of okay for McTominay to be advanced because it's like, okay, if you want to just go mark the defenders up there, Amrabat and Maino will cover enough space.
Right.
Liverpool aren't manipulating the spaces that they should, but when your enemies make mistakes, you don't stop them. Another thing that I want to just get into in this game, and you can see it a little bit there, was, and United have done this well against Arsenal as well at home. The wingers in this game were excellent. This is the best defensive performance that I saw from Garnacho from a defensive level. In terms of, if you that's a good image, but there's another one later. If you want to just go to where it's the one with Trent. That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes, this one and then the next one. So what Garnacho did in this game is he in this game, whenever Trent was inverting as well, he was, I don't know if he was clearly instructed to stay inside, or Ten Hag told him, okay, just make sure that you're very wary of your options to your left and your right. But whenever the ball was coming into Trent there, Garnacho was very aware of this. So he quickly closes Trent down to his right. And as this happens, the whole move slows down, and then United can get back into shape. Because if Trent gets the ball there, turns and then goes, as you can see, Varane is sort of scampering already there. They'll have a problem. But because of Garnacho's movements inside, Trent, for whatever reason, I think if you go back and watch it, I don't know how many people will, if at all.
Yeah.
Trent, for whatever reason, is wary of Garnacho coming. He slows the game down. He goes back and then gives it
Yeah,
back
he
to
doesn't
Konate.
just get to run into the space. Yeah.
Of course, he can't move on the half turn. So if you
Right, and
want to
so
just go
here,
to
basically, sorry, you're saying, Szoboszlai obviously drags Amrabat way out, and then Trent moves into the middle as he often does. If Garnacho doesn't track him, this is a huge chance for Liverpool. But by kind of doing it regularly, you can see here he's going back to Trent, so obviously he's pretty aware of it in this
it's exactly
situation.
that. It's exactly
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
If you want to just go to the image again, the next one, because the next one's
This one?
if you want to just go back, yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Okay.
This movement is especially key as well because when the defender has it here and McTominay is pressing him, Amrabat is on Endo. I think that's Sobzalai in the middle. Garnacho is
Yeah.
going towards Sobzalai, but he's not directly. He hasn't made his mind up yet. As in, if he goes to Sobzalai there, like Konate's mind is already made up, and he's gone. Oh, thanks very much. The wide option to Trent is there, but he stops in the middle of his tracks, and then he's realized, okay, Konate might pass it to Trent on the to the left of me, so he
Yep.
stopped, and then he's going to close the pass down. This does two things. This makes Konate hesitate on the ball because Garnacho is now going to cover Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then number two, it stops his track because if he's in the middle there, he might not pass it to Sobzalai because Garnacho is still in a position where he can close down either of them. So it's a matter of, for the wingers, I go on later to talk about it, and Anthony did the same. The wingers were wary of what was going on to the left of them, but the wingers were especially wary of what was going on in the center of the pitch to them if there was a spare man, because at that current moment in time, Amrabat is on Endo, Garnacho is on Sobzalai, and then the other midfielder, which is advanced, Kobe Meno, has to take care of. So
Right.
what you don't want to happen in that position is to one of them to be free and then a defender to run out because they're busy with Liverpool's attack. They have to mark them. It's all about making sure that there's no options in the middle of the pitch to pass to, so then it creates forward space for more forwards. And United did just about an all right job of it, and it was good enough for a 2-2 for a 0-0 draw, and basically limiting Liverpool to as well as you can. Of course, Liverpool had enough day, but it was as good an out of possession performance as you're going to get from United in these games.
That makes sense, and so obviously we've kind of talked about this.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
that's a
even
great
deeper.
image.
It's the same story, right? Kabi Manu tied to Gravenberg, Amrabat on Szoboszlai, Garnacho still tracking Trent all the way into here, and then Varane is here. You have Nunez is being tracked. You even have a free defender, which is Johnny Evans, I believe, in this case. So you're not overwhelmed. You're not overloaded, I suppose, is the point. And I'm thinking, based on our prior discussions and talks, if I think this is McTominay here, it's one of these is McTominay anyway. But if they're up here advanced, this all gets out of position again, because then your free man has to cover somebody here, and your deeper midfielder's a little higher, or somebody is free here in the middle, and that's where United would often be conceding. Because I guess the point is, correct me if I'm wrong, but each team is going to hope to have an overload based on the transition phase or whatever phase of play it is. Liverpool would like to have a free man, an overload in attack. United would like to have more defenders than they have attackers, ideally in a defending phase, so that you have extra. You always have extra, someone to kind of cover the ball where it's moving, and each player being covered. So, I mean, it makes sense, right? Does this kind of say that United's strength, or what they can still do well, is defend in kind of this 4-2-3-1 we've practically been seeing since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and even before that, but where they're better defending with two deep. Anybody should be. I mean, I guess it's just an extra player. Whether they're good at it or not, adding the extra player is still a factor, right?
We might see Amrabat and Mainu combination, or if Casemiro comes back, we might see the combination of Casemiro back in. But it was a case to me of Amrabat and Mainu are maybe a little bit better at doing the man marking, and it's better if you have McTominay in the team to leave him up there and press the defense, because he almost does no defensive work anymore. It's weird that
Right.
he was a decently competent central defensive midfielder under
With
Solskjaer,
Fred,
where he
yeah.
did
Yeah.
the simple things well and the blocking and the marking of
Yeah.
space. And he almost doesn't do that anymore now. There was particular moments against Chelsea and against Newcastle. We've been through this before, where the man marking just hasn't worked because teams have exploited it. And Liverpool had an off day and they didn't do that, but the marking was a tad tighter because Mino was there, because Amrabat was there, and the wingers were a lot better. In this image as well, you can see what is going on is Diaz has dropped 10 yards. He's dropped off to receive the ball. Varane has followed him. That is somebody dragging a defender with them, which is a very good. That's a very good movement from Diaz. But there isn't really any space elsewhere in the picture apart from wide. But that's where you want it to go anyway.
Yeah. Right. And so I guess then the point being here is that, I mean, the problem is this, right? Kobe Manu, Amrabat, McTominay, you want your midfielders to be good enough where they can cover the spaces properly and be good in possession. Essentially is what you want out of at least two of your midfielders, that they're good at, not necessarily all around. Like one can be a little more defensively specialized, but I guess this is the balance of like a more defensive player, your more box to box player, and your attacking midfielder that you usually see in a three-man midfield. The problem with this is that Amrabat hasn't been very good in possession, and so he's not going to help you get a lot of possession. McTominay is not very good in possession, and he doesn't really defend. He's sort of just a box crasher at this point in time. So I guess like if you had Casemiro here, where Kobe Manu is say playing a more defensive specialist role, and you had Kobe Manu where Amrabat is, and you had Bruno where McTominay is, you could probably defend like this or better. But when you do get the ball back, you'd have a lot more quality to retain it, to keep it, to move it, to build something out of it without necessarily giving up your defensive strength as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um, if and when Casemiro returns, what I would like to see is Minu and Casemiro,
Yeah,
because at the
yeah,
moment, what is happening is Minu is having to cover all the space that
yeah,
McTominay is leaving by going advanced. Then you have Fernandez who's saying, "Oh, we're not very good at ball progression. Let me come deeper." And you're like, "No, Bruno, you're the Hollywood ball man, and we want you as further up the pitch as possible."
yes,
So
yes,
if you have Kobe, Cass, Fernandez in there, and Fernandez out of possession, like he does this weird thing where he presses and nobody else joins in, but out of possession without the ball defensively, if you look in a lot of games last season, he was the guy who kept position very well as well. So if you have
yeah,
those three, and I absolutely agree with you, it's a better three than these three, if that makes sense.
yeah,
That was the good. That was the good
yes,
in
yes,
December. Now I
yeah,
think we can get on to the bad, which
yeah. Give
was
me. Let me move over to another
yeah,
game.
sure. Just
Which one do you want me to go to?
if you just want to go to the Nottingham reel that I gave you, which
All right.
wasn't even a thread because I was so tired of talking about the same thing.
Yeah, let me pause this because I don't want to reveal all the spicy DMs here. Hold on a second.
No, of course not. The spicy,
Uh,
angry DMs.
which one do you got here? All right, let me pull up your thing. So you
it's
want to go
just
to
it's
Nottingham
just the one.
Forest?
It's just the one tweet. Yeah. Hold on, actually.
You're gonna send it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies. I thought I'd already done that.
All right. I have the Villa one that we'll probably want to.
Yeah, you can put that up in the meantime because it does kind of go hand in hand.
All right, let me share that again. Cool.
Okay, I'm just sending
Right.
you the Nottingham Forest one now. So the Villa and the Nottingham Forest and the West Ham games, they all go hand in hand because I think December, one of the biggest problems that we're seeing now, and we saw it against Bournemouth, is United are finding it extremely hard to break teams down when they have more of the ball. Not even when these teams are sitting deep, because I don't know, the fixture list and the schedule is very knackering right now. So teams, West Ham weren't even that good against Man United at all.
Yeah,
Nottingham
I don't
Forest
think so.
weren't defensively that good against Manchester United at all. What is happening now, and this is the most worrying thing for me, is the teams that United should be beating and were beating last year, regardless.
Yep.
They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Now, whether that is because they don't know what to do when they have more of the ball, because they have it's just been a mishmash of different cycles, or whether
Yep.
that's because they don't create enough chances because of it. I I can't see. This is the first time out of many, I'll say, against Forest. I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm really unsure of what they were doing. If you just want to
Yep.
get the Forest clip up that I've just sent you. So
Yeah.
pause for the spicy DMs, but
Pause for the spicy DMs. Let's get up to Forest. All right. Good. Okay.
against Forest. So where you have the ball now, they have United build up in a 3 like they normally do. What
Yep.
should be happening is Ericsson or Mainu should be dropping into that space there.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they're covered off by Forest markers, which is absolutely fine, and that's it. That is it.
Nothing else happens.
That's where the attack stops. That's where
Yeah.
the attack stops. Now, I've noticed this a little bit against Wigan as well. Mainu and Ericsson were pushing up 10 yards. As they were covered, I kind of waited for something else to happen. But that was it. That was it. After this, I think Evans goes long. But what you
Yeah.
can do in this situation is push Wan-Bissaka into midfield, push
Right.
Diogo Dalot into midfield. Then you have an
Yeah.
extra midfielder, and then that player might go and cover Dalot, or they might cover Wan-Bissaka. But also, then you have your three. They've got the 3 at the back now, but then you have your one to receive. Then what is supposed to happen is Mainu and Ericsson are then supposed to push up, and you make a 6. When the 6
Yeah.
happens or the 5 happens up front, you look to go wide, and you look for your inverted
You get for
fullback or your wide
overloads.
winger.
Yeah.
And that's how you make your space. This, I'm not sure what they were doing. I'm really not sure what they were doing.
We've seen that a lot. I feel like this year we have seen that a lot where they kind of play out the back and teams are like, we'll just let you have it. And then nothing. It's like, it's just like,
That's
it's just nothing. And then they do like a big switch to the winger, which works very, very little. Very rarely does it work. Sometimes it does. On occasion it does. Like we'll get one, like the one lucky goal from Evans on a big switch one time, but then it's like that's our only option. Evans with a big switch or Maguire with a big switch, and sometimes it's okay in the situations where, like you said, they've already made the line up front and they're further up and there's a free man. But in a situation like this, it's like, where are we going? And then you've practically fall asleep watching the game because they're just sitting around on the ball, like in this position over and over again, doing nothing.
They've lost the ability to create chances.
Yeah.
Against your Forests, against your Bournemouths, against your West Hams. And this team last season, they breezed past Forest. I remember it was 2-0, but they breezed past Forest. It was injuries then, people were tired. But they knew exactly what to do. There was so much space. I specifically remember covering this game, and Wan-Bissaka was continuously making half space runs. And
I remember
kept dragging a Forest player with them, and they were like, "That's fine. We've got plenty of space wide, plenty of space in the half space." This, I cannot make sense of it at all. And whether it's the fact that they've been asked to do so many different things each time and they've just forgotten, or they've just been asked to, he's just told them, Mainu and Ericsson, to push up, and then they've said to go long again, or then they wanted the big switch again. But I cannot figure this part out. West Ham was a little bit better. Mainu had more control of the ball, but there was still nowhere near enough space created. But there was still a little bit of space created wide. I would say that against West Ham, there was more spaces created wide that they didn't get the ball wide enough, I would say. But This is the most worrying thing because the same happened against Bournemouth. Teams know exactly what Man United are going to do when they get the ball deep. 3 at the back, 2 in midfield. The 2 are covered in midfield. Okay, I think that's it, guys. I think we're
Yeah,
just about
that's the
covered.
job.
Like that is it. Like there's not. They used
Yep.
to adjust and find solutions to this last season, and now they're not. Um, and there was possession-based football for Man United. Now, the only remedy that I can think of in this sense, and now if you want to just go to Villa, if you want to just go to Villa, and the only remedy that I can see, the only remedy that I can think of, and the only thing that has damn near worked this season, and I've got no idea why he randomly does it against certain teams and doesn't against others. Well, I've got some idea, but against Wolves in the first half, sorry, against Wolves in the game at home, I know we got bashed up, but the pressing was very good and we created turnovers. Against Tottenham in the first half, we created a lot of turnovers by pressing high with the fullbacks pushed up.
Yeah,
Uh,
one
they,
beside
they,
here.
they didn't convert. Against Chelsea, we did this. And against Villa at home, we did this. And for the life of me, I cannot see why you are not fully pressing Nottingham Forest and West Ham with the fullbacks pushed up. With the fullbacks
Hmm.
pushed up is the key one here because there's other
Yep.
games where it's just the front line pressing and they eventually just play it over the top of top of the right or left winger, and the fullback has plenty of space because he's been instructed not to press. If you want to just go all the way down to the section of where
Yeah.
I
Well,
say that we make some changes in pressing.
I was even looking at here, like if Wan-Bissaka isn't here, for example, I know it's kind of far away from the ball, but if he's deep and Ramsey is open, it's much easier for them to go inside, switch the play, and they're wide open running down that side then. But let me go down
Yeah,
to let's see.
I think I mentioned it in like the second image about how much space there was for Villa anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this one there's a lot of space anyway here.
Yeah, this was the man-to-man marking not being
Yep.
worked well. This is sort
Yeah,
of
and
and
even with Wan-Bissaka up here, there's still
Villa
so
do
many
this.
free men running all over the place. Yeah.
Villa do this. They drop a right winger into a central space, and then if the fullback follows them, their space is wide, which is what they did. But in the
Yep.
second half, and Ten Hag said this in a quote. I remember reading it. If you just go to the
There
pressing
we go.
section in the second half,
Uh,
he said this specifically. He said, "I changed
yeah,
it in
there
the
we go.
second half when we wanted to go more aggressive. This was after we
Yep.
scored the first goal. So we kept sending a barrage of balls in behind, which was hilarious.
Which
I think there was like nine offsides in the first half, which was
yeah, which of
the
course is Villa's thing, do the high line, get you
yeah.
offside. You have to
But
do it still. You've got to
of
try.
course they
It's
kept
just the
trying.
timing was just wrong. Yeah.
They kept trying. I think the signals were like, okay, just keep doing it. Like eventually you'll figure it out, and eventually they did. But
Yeah, Bruno got it right in the second half for sure.
e- eventually, yes. But in the second half, I think maybe he does it on the game state. Maybe he does
Yeah.
it because we're at home and the crowd's roaring and we need that extra bit of pump. And maybe he does it when where we are creating a lot of chances, but we're normally creating those chances because we're pressing. And
Mm-hmm.
we were creating lots of chances against Chelsea as well, and we were chasing 2 more goals against Villa. And he said, "Okay, screw it. Go advanced. Go aggressive with the pressing. Wan-Bissaka, you follow Ramsey wherever the hell he goes,
Yeah, which
and
did.
Johnny
Yeah.
Evans, you you even push up against John McGinn as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to just go to the next couple of slides, there's really good examples of how aggressive we got.
Evans all the way up here. Yep. And then
Yeah,
again
Evans
here.
all the way
Yeah.
pushed up there.
No, it
There's one
makes sense.
particular
I mean, you
one.
look at these pictures. I'll find in a sec. You look at these pictures, like where do they go? It's a good press. It's actually a good
Yeah,
press. There's nowhere to
it's
go
it's an
in these
aggressive
pictures.
press,
Yeah,
but there's
and there's risks,
there's
but
one later with
look,
sure, there's
let's see.
risks, but if it's working, then just do it. And also,
Yeah,
if you've
yeah,
tried, this is the really aggressive one. Look at this throw. There's four players. There's four
yeah. It's
players in one Man
Evans,
United
right?
section.
Kobe Manu, Erickson, and Rashford all
Ericsson as
here.
well. Like
Yeah.
he could turn and then play the ball wide and switch it, but look at the pressure. If
Yeah.
you have tried 4 or 5 different things this season and none of them have worked, and one of them keeps working, and it's fun and it's aggressive and it
Yeah.
keeps giving you results and it keeps letting you create chances, why are you not doing it? Why are you not doing it?
Yeah.
Why
I
are
would
you not
agree.
doing it particularly against why are you not doing it against West Ham? Why are you not doing it against Bournemouth? Why are you not
Yep.
doing it against Nottingham Forest? It makes no sense. Villa are third in the league. Chelsea have some of the best technical players in the world. And you are watching those games going, okay, if we press Chelsea and Villa, it works and we retain the ball. And then we decide not to do it against Bournemouth, Forest, and West Ham. It just doesn't make
Mm.
any sense. Is there risk? Of course, there's risk. But there's more risk involved in the things that you were doing before that weren't working, which is the man-to-man
Right.
marking, which is the
Yep.
mid-blocking of like deep defending. This this is working, and you should do it more often, and you should definitely do it against the lesser teams.
Yep.
Wan-Bissaka, Villa do this thing where they drop the left winger very central, so they drop Ramsey very central. And Wan-Bissaka was going, "You want to do that? Fine, but I'm Spider-Man. I'll be all over you as soon as you get the ball." And whenever he did get the ball, we just turned it over. Hit presto, we had the ball in their half, and then we could attack from there. It seems
Right.
to me that he's doing it on when the game changes, when
Mm.
we need 2 extra goals, maybe. And
Like
he's not doing it
desperation
from
instead
minute
of
zero.
like just being on the front foot from the get go, which
Just be on the front foot from the start. It doesn't make
yeah.
any sense. It would make sense if it wasn't working. Well, it it it, it created issues against Wolves, but it
But it's
still
better.
made Man
But
United more
but I
dangerous.
want to ask you about that. Now I want to ask you about that because I agree with you.
Sure.
And I see a different issue which we're starting to see is probably one of the only really positives that I can see right now that's happened, which you want to touch on because I had a takeaway from the Wolves game and the second game of the season too, and it was the same against Spurs, I think, as well. Because in the start of the season, obviously there's no striker, and Marcus Rashford was having to play central in those games. And I actually think he did pretty well against Spurs. There were some chances he
Yeah,
and Bruno
yeah,
should have scored. I think he did decent. It wasn't amazing, but it was decent. In those games, the wing play was really bad. I remember there
yes.
were some certain points
So bad.
where it was one of the reasons that the problems was not just the pressing, but that endless turnovers from Anthony and Garnacho in those games that would result in attacks against us. And the wing, and I think that teams were starting to just say, fine, we'll just let them have it on the wings. They're going to lose it. They're going to mess it up. We don't have to worry about it. Of course, that makes them more compact centrally, which makes it harder to break down and, et cetera. Against Villa, obviously, what really ended up working was, for the first time we saw this, was Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right. And Rashford is a totally different player on the left than he is on the right. He's totally different. He's been extremely creative. I saw some people weren't happy with the Wigan game for some reason. I think he had an assist, obviously. He had 6 key passes. I think he actually did a really good job creating. The finishing, could have been 5-6 goals against Wigan. Again, the finishing
Yeah.
let you down, but you still created so many chances that you could win, even with bad finishing. And that was a difference. Against Villa, the finishing was good. The offside was kind of the issue, but the threat of the two of them on those wings seemed to do a lot more. And a revelation to this, of course, is I think Garnacho, because when Rashford plays on the left, I feel like he's drawn a lot of attention by defenders. He always draws a lot of attention. When Anthony's been on the other side, they don't really care. He's so one-dimensional.
So
He
cunning.
can't, but it's true because it's like
Yes, yes.
he's going inside, so you can't take advantage of the shift in
Yeah.
the
They know
defense
what he's gonna
because
do. They know what he's gonna
they're
do.
defending him wide. They don't care. Garnacho, not just because he's right-footed, and I was extremely impressed and surprised by how good he was on the right in both of the games because he showed a willingness to go. I thought he was just going to go right, and I was like, it'll still be better. But he went left a lot too. And so the willingness to go both directions and be effective from Garnacho means that any of the attention Rashford is drawing away, he's actually taking advantage of it. And any attention putting on him is creating more space on the other side, and vice versa. And so even with Højlund, he scored in Villa at the end, but even with Højlund missing again chances against Wigan, there was enough on both sides to create. And I thought the wing play was a huge difference maker because it does force teams to open a bit if they have to actually cover both of your wingers, which I don't think they've had to, all year until those two games. And I think it's no accident you actually score goals. I mean, scoring 3 against Villa, regardless of, they should have shut up shop a bit more. I don't think they're good at shutting up shop, actually, which is why they kind of kept doing what they're doing. And the goals against Wigan, you take it. And and I was just thinking about it because I was thinking about, you're saying with the pressing created other issues, but at the same time, those other issues were in big part because in possession, they were also terrible. And that was costing them as much, probably a lot more than the actual pressing problem. So, my takeaway is, I would love to see us keep that setup going, get Casemiro in with Kabi Manu so you have a better midfield, a more robust and energetic midfield, and then press the hell out of people and push those fullbacks up. And I think that gives us our best opportunity to win most games. It's probably the only good way, like the couple good things we've seen this year, put them together, and I think that at least it gives us a chance of seeing something positive out for the rest of the year.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's a good point that you touched upon, because I remember I think I did the Wolves game as well.
Yeah.
And I said the pressing was good, but that was one of the most awful games I've seen from two United attackers.
Yes.
Probably in my time watching football, just everything they touched went to shit, basically. Like they had the ball
pretty much.
without mincing my words. It was
true.
High.
It was two of the worst possession games.
It was
from
horrifically bad.
seen.
It was horrifically bad. Anthony Garnacho. I think I tweeted about it as well. There's a thread. Both of them would win the ball. Like, we would win the ball high. I think Mount was then in the team. Casemiro was in the team. Pass it out to Anthony Garnacho, and they would, like, as bad as what Liverpool were against us the other day, a misplaced cross, bad pass. But it's also a matter of, like you said, just playing your best players in your best positions. Lightening the load for Rashford so he's not up front as a central striker. Rashford is on the left, Garnacho is on the right, and you have the Bruno Fernandes. You have him as a cam, which is exactly where he should be. And then you have your team pressing, and then all of a sudden, hey presto, you can create chances. But even when he's stumbling upon doing the right things, he just doesn't stick with them. He was thriving on being transformative last season, as in, okay, we're going to adapt to our opponent each time, and it's going to work against big teams. We're going to counter and block them in the middle. Against the West Ham's, Bournemouths, we're going to go 3-1-6, and we're going to pummel them, and we're going to get space wide. Now he still keeps changing the style. You can't do that when your team is losing as much as they are. They've lost 9 league games. So you need
find
to
something and stick to it that's effective.
You need to stick to the things that are working, and it's in front of your face what is working. So you need to stop making the team so adaptive, because on top of that, my friend, you are having an audition for your job. You're auditioning for your job now, whether you like it or not. Dave Brailsford and Jim Ratcliffe, they're up there in the stands like the Night King. It's coming, man. It's coming. So you play Manu and you play, like you said, Cass and Rashford and Garnacho and Bruno and Højlund up front, and you tell the fullbacks to push up. And sometimes it might be risky, and there'll be transitional issues, but we've seen porous football for a long time, with glimmers of hope, glimmers of your Chelseas at home, glimmers of your Villas at home, glimmers of your even Galatasaray away, which was fun, but like they turned into a tennis game. And it's just so clear that in order for Man United to beat teams that sit deep, you should be pressing Forest and Bournemouth. They do not
Yep.
possess the technical players to pass the ball out from the back when you press them. And you can see the evidence in front of your face. And we can only hope that he sees that in the January break and persists, or we have this magical, the injuries are going to go away soon, and Martinez and Casa coming back. It's
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, a promise of Christmas. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a bad metaphor. I'll have to
Yep.
work on that, but
No, I get you, but no, I'm looking because it's like it's true. I mean, we're about to play
it's
Spurs,
this.
and you even have a tweet from Spurs here where you can see the everybody's kind of pressing up there, and so I think that given all of that, obviously the main kind of takeaway from this is like we've lost games that we probably shouldn't, and a lot of it comes down to where I think it's very frustrating is I think we could all look at it and say, let's stop doing these things that aren't working and start doing the things that do, and just keep them going and just keep doing them. And I think the two biggest things that work are, one, effective pressing in the midfield. And yeah, the personnel is a problem. We played a lot better with Christian Eriksen than McTominay from the midfield.
Definitely.
And that's an issue, and so hopefully with Eriksen and Casemiro back and then Mount soon, it's enough options that we can figure that proper balance out with Kobbie Mainoo in the team now of actually pressing, of actually pushing up, and then backing it up with the fullbacks, so that as well, because this is again versus Villa, that Rashford and Garnacho, while they can track their players, they don't have to run all the way back because there's no pressure, there's no push up from the fullbacks, where they're actually available to get in behind and be attacking as they were against Villa and Wigan as well. And that's just like pick your best players, put them out there, press, and I think keep this front three exactly as it is, and don't change it under any circumstances unless you are absolutely forced to be an injury or something like that. But just keep it going, because I think it's the best we've seen in a while out of them, out of players in terms of the threat, in terms of what it can produce, and hopefully some positives there. But it's tricky because Wigan I was okay with, but it's like it
But it's
seems like every
Wigan.
time. Yeah, I know it's Wigan. That's the problem. It seems like every time there's something that's okay, we don't see it again.
Yeah.
It reverts, and
It's sad.
hopefully that changes.
I think we spoke briefly about Copenhagen as well. The
Yep.
build-up structure was different against Copenhagen. It was a lot more rotational. Players were coming deep. Fullbacks were being brave. They were taking 2-3 men on, and you're just watching the screen, going, maybe he's figured it out. Maybe he's figured something out, and maybe he's latched onto something, and then we just see it scrapped. But the key point is, this team only lost, I think, how many? 9? Was it 9 league games last season?
Yeah.
This team lost only 9 league games last season. This team lost only 11 or 12 games. I think I didn't associate that into that last season. And it's because they knew how to adjust and dismantle teams that were a little bit smaller. If you press them with your fullbacks, you're going to be in positions where you create more chances for them to score more goals, because this team is hilariously bad at scoring. We've scored less than Luton Town.
I know. Yeah.
So the trick is whether this happens or not. The trick is whether he says, okay, we're going to press teams high, or he just waits for Casemiro to come back. He waits for Martinez to come back, and then maybe we see the possessional football get better with Martinez and Shaw and Eriksen as the one, and Kobbie Mainoo in as a new hope. The Star Wars first film,
Right.
he's Luke Skywalker, and you're going, please save us. But
Yeah.
that's where we're at. There's been enough games now for everybody to see what are the weak points and the very, very few strong points.
Yep. And of course, the problem now that we're facing is that there's not a lot to play for this season left. Obviously, getting Champions League would be helpful for next year, certainly. There's still the FA Cup, which we'll see. But Ineos have come in now over the break since our last video that was confirmed. And, they're obviously, as you said, the president, they're there. Jim Ratcliffe's going to be there on Sunday. They're watching the games. I've talked before about contingency plans with regards to the manager. And the issue is that come 2-3 weeks from now, they're going to be putting people in place. They're not going to wait until May to make a decision on what happens next year. It's not going to happen because you cannot start recruiting if you don't know who your manager is next year, and what the plan is with that in general. It's going to be really hard to plan with that. There's a lot of things you cannot start doing and you cannot start thinking with, and they don't want to be in May saying, we don't know who the manager is going to be or if we're going to change or if we're going to keep him. So he's been having his interview by action on top of things we've touched on before about the roles and recruitment need to be changing because it's a huge issue. You can see the difference that putting Garnacho from the academy on the right is versus that 85 million pound purchase. The roles and recruitment and all of that have to change. So he doesn't have a lot of time. I'm being quite honest. I think obviously, as I've said, I don't think he's going to be sacked during the year or anything like that, regardless of results at this point. It's January. You bring someone in in February. Does it make any difference? Probably not. At this point in time. So, but I think he has very little time left to actually turn the tides of his fortunes at United, Ten Hag. I think it's really difficult for him essentially to say, yeah, I've shown now I should be manager next year. There's not a lot of time left because I think by March they're going to want to have made that decision, and there's just not a lot of games to change your fortunes at this point. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that at this point in time, but we still want to see some positives come out of play. But I have to say, like I've seen some good things and all that. It's hard. It's hard as a fan watching these games recently, and because you feel like, and some of it's because of the ownership. It's changing. That these things are going to be happening, and now we're looking to summer and next season for the grand plans and all the great things that are going to happen because it's not going to be now. And it's like, it's hard to look at the games and think what's the point? What's the point of this?
It's extremely difficult. It's January and the season's kind of over, but I want to say that, like, I think Tottenham 2 seasons ago, I know Conte was very combustible and it exploded, but that's just what Conte is. You get 1 or 2 years of very effective football and it goes to bust. I think they were in a similar spot. They brought him in. And then if you start to build things, if you start to see things on the pitch, like you start to see them win things, and then they got fourth, and then they went into next season. I remember there was videos coming out saying, "Are Tottenham title contenders?" Because if you start to build games and if you start to create chances and you start to create a good vibe and a good feeling in the team, and that's going to keep spiraling, and you're going to keep seeing wins. Like we saw Villa, we saw Chelsea. We saw even the draw against Liverpool, and you go, God, can they build on this? Because then I'll still be tuned in this season. But we're sitting in January, and a lot of the season has been a write-off. And I've spent a lot of this season talking about how bad we are and why we are this bad. I would like to spend the next 4 or 5 months saying I can see improvements, but we shall see. We don't know really. It's tough as a fan. It's tough as a fan.
Yeah. Well, let's hope there are either way. I would like to see some improvements. I'd like to see some positive takeaways. There's going to be big turnover in one way or another come summer in terms of personnel and all of that. And that's why my hope was we'd see a bit more systemic, things in place, because personnel will change and we can't be thinking, oh, it's all reliant on this individual or that individual. There's got to be ways that it plays. There's got to be ways that it can go. And succeed. So let's hope we still get some wins. Let's hope we can be competitive. Let's hope we can drive forward in the FA Cup and build on it and hopefully get Champions League one way or another. There's a chance Fifth could get it depending on how things go in all the competitions. So maybe it's an easier job. We'll see. It's so competitive at the top of the league right now that it's keeping us like in the mix.
Yeah.
Teams cannot string wins together. I think City, De Bruyne.
You could just get your act together for 5 or 6 games. We're 9 points behind Arsenal.
It's like if we could win 3 out of 5, we're probably there in 5th place. We're probably in 5th or 4th or challenging for it, because these teams cannot put it together. Arsenal have kind of messed up their midfield and have issues and things like that right now. And anyway, there's room for the taking. There's room for the taking, even by
There
just
is.
being decent. If we're just decent, we could still
If
have
we
a
can just
positive
get to a
end.
competent-ish level,
Beat the bad teams. Beat the bad teams again. At least just beat the bad teams. I don't care if we're not winning the big
press
games.
them with the fullbacks.
Beat the bad teams. Yeah. So let's hope. All right. Well, we'll certainly do another one of these after a few games, and we see where things go after January. It was great speaking with you again. Great to do this, and I look forward to the next one.
As always, my friend. Take care. Take care till the next one.
Of course. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to follow Darnish on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and we'll see you in the next one.